Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Homes Real Estate Podcast. Today, we are talking about earning wealth through rental properties. Stay tuned. All right, hello, everybody. Again, welcome to the Homes Real Estate Podcast. I'm Peter Toering.
And I'm Chris Vanbelle.
And today, we are talking about rental properties. So this is something that we obviously deal with quite a bit, as you know, both Chris and I are realtors here in Metro Detroit, and we've had actually a pretty good rental market here. Some would argue it's stronger than our buying market. It's very difficult to have
really
an affordable
crazy.
property.
A lot of times we're seeing that you can barely get them on the market and they don't last a week. Let's just say a week.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it turns out a lot of people actually end up buying because it's more affordable to buy than to rent. But we're going to look, and we've covered that in the podcast multiple times, that, hey, it's much better for you to buy it than it is to rent. But I don't think we've ever covered the flip side of that, about why you should be the owner of a rental property.
Man, you know what? It's amazing. And my wife and I are actually starting to work on that in the future. It's part of our long-term plan. We need to start with one, and then we have our goals of getting a few more. I mean, rental income's fantastic.
I am actually in the same boat myself. I'm looking for my first one, and we've both worked with multiple investors who buy them and either rehab and rent them out, or just buy them as is. So let's talk about number one. Who should, I guess, be looking for a rental property? Number two, how do you finance a rental property? Number three, what to look for when you're buying a rental property? I think those are a couple of things that people are going to want to know, kind of just to start off here.
Who should be looking for them? Yes. The answer is yes.
I think the answer really is I think number one, you should be a homeowner yourself. I know some national advisors that one in particular that believes the opposite, that you should not rent your primary home, but you should just own rentals. I think the stats show that you should own both.
It depends on your situation, but
yeah.
yes.
So if you're stable, I think, owning your own home, obviously you have to have at least some amount of cash down. You need a little bit of a nest egg to be able to put a down payment down on a property. And then someone who is willing to either, obviously this is a long-term investment. You're not getting your money back, right now. But you are getting monthly cash flow. Also, it needs to be someone that is willing to deal with. Not everyone's cut out to be a landlord, and
Right.
there
There's
are
ways
certain.
around that.
Yeah, the biggest one being having a property manager.
Right, and you can incorporate that into your rent also. I mean, a lot of people do. It's a smart thing to do. It's better than being an absent landlord.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would, I think, answer the question of who's the best who. Obviously, if it's something you're considering, I would talk to an experienced realtor who has experience not only in residential real estate, but also with investors, who understands cap rates and how the numbers are calculated. The next question is, what's the financing like?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that because we barely touched on it. A lot of times now, talk to your lender. There's a lot of different lenders with a lot of different programs, but most of the time it's a minimum of 20% down.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a couple of ways to get around that. There are some banks that you can do. There's hard money. There's what's called BRRRR, is a particular theory that some people like to use, which is it's buy, rehab, refinance, repeat,
Right.
where you can actually then pull some of the equity out of one house to then go and try and get to another. That being said, yeah, definitely, I think having 20% down is certainly the way to start. There's a lot of people that would argue that you should only buy the properties in cash. I think you can mortgage them if the numbers are right.
And it depends too. You might be able to land contract. It depends on the seller's motivation. As you get more into the buying game of things, sometimes it makes sense to land contract, and you might be able to do that for 5 or 10% down with a small interest rate. That way you can refinance the home into a loan.
Right.
In a lot of cases, and that works out for a lot of people too.
Yeah. Now, the next question of what should you be looking for on a property, I think that's probably the toughest question of all, because you are looking for not only what we normally look for, and there's one more element and one less element than a regular home search. So the one less is there's very little emotional component to it.
Or none.
Yeah, you're not looking for a home for you or for your family, so that you're removed from that. You do have the same concerns, condition, future costs on the property, things like that. And then now you also have one of what is my rent going to be? So what's the actual profitability? What are the expenses of this property?
Right. Well, one thing that I like to look for is longevity. I want stuff in there that's going to be able to take a little bit of a beating, used year after year. People that aren't necessarily attached to the home because they don't own it. So I'm not saying that people don't have pride, but the pride of ownership is a lot different than pride of rentership in a lot of cases. People love their homes, no matter what, renting or buying.
Right.
But you want something that's going to last, and you want it to last for a little while.
Yeah, which to me means either having hard surface flooring or having the ability to quickly swap out. It means having, for me, I like brick exteriors. It's not a must, but low maintenance landscaping, some of those things is what I'm looking for. And sorry for those who are watching on video, we had to do a little bit of a microphone shift because I was feeding back like mad. So if the audio is a little bit jacked up for the first couple minutes.
Was great.
So we were talking about maintenance on property. I said for me, everything is low maintenance. I like brick exterior. Obviously, I'm looking for, hey, have we done roof HVAC, things like that pretty recently? The other thing we want to look for is the profitability. So, and that takes different forms for different people. But the kind of simple way a lot of people do it, it's called a four square. You're looking at what the overall income is from the property, the monthly income, if there's anything else that you've got going on there, and then your monthly expenses. And then you can actually calculate what we call your cap rate, which is your net operating income divided by your purchase price. So a lot of investors, and now that being said, there's no one right cap rate for anybody. Some people say they're fine with 7%, some need 12%. So that's
it depends on the investor, like you just said. Some people put a lot of stock into the cap rate. Some people, they don't even ask.
Yeah, and it depends too. A lot of that is going to also depend on it whether you have a mortgage or not. If you have carrying costs for the house that are going on whether they're rented or not, now that is it's going to change your numbers, and that's also going to depend on what kind of interest rate you have and things like that. So, and that's a very, very basic look at kind of how you price. The other thing too that you can look at is it used to be the 2% rule. I think a lot of people now have switched kind of to a 1% rule, which is basically if the rental numbers per month on a property are 1% of the purchase price, or hopefully 2%, then you have a basically good property. So if you're returning $1,000 a month on a $100,000 property.
Yep, that's definitely a good rule for, again, some people to go by. And that's definitely one of the things we look for.
Yeah. Now, again, like we said, you do have to be prepped. There are some things that can go wrong as a landlord.
I can't believe that.
Obviously, you can have legal fees associated with evictions. You can have tenant problems. There's maintenance fees. But again, having a good team, having a good realtor to start with, having a good attorney, a good property manager can mitigate a lot of those things.
Yeah, that's huge. Always put into your costs, in my opinion, a property management company. Now, I'm not saying to do this for your first home, but as you go along and maybe you have 2 or 3 properties, that gets to be a lot to handle. It gets to be a lot to take care of and check in on. So you want a very proactive, good, attentive, honest property management company.
Yeah, and property management companies can charge anywhere from $50 a door to 10% of the rent. So it just it totally depends on the property management company that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and there's some awesome ones out there. And again, I don't want the headache of evicting people. I don't want the headache of getting a phone call at midnight saying, "Hey, there's a leak in my faucet."
Right. So now that being said, too, you also want to make sure that you talk to probably your realtor, your attorney when you're setting up tenant leases, making sure that you're pretty protected there as well.
Absolutely, we're going to be your first line of contract building, but you're always going to want to take a good conversation with your lawyer, your attorney. And again, I can't stress enough the property management company.
Yeah. So this is just a tiny primer into renting. The other thing we should look at is, should you be putting your money into rental properties or should you be investing in your 401k or in the stock market? And I think that is, obviously we're not financial advisors.
Nope.
But the one thing that you do want to look at is obviously if you have a company match 401k or something, plus that's tax deductible. This is more if you've got extra cash, you're looking to multiply your money. And that is one thing that rental properties will do as well, is the more rental properties you have, the more cash flow is coming in. And you can put that cash flow back into the business to keep expanding it.
And it really depends what your end goal is. Is it more positive cash flow year over year? That way, maybe you're looking close to retiring. Well, that's some passive income that it's always going to be there. Now, in my case, our goal is about 10 to 15 properties over time. I'd rather have something with an income stream that I pass along to my children than, here's a little bit of cash, go ahead and blow it all.
Right.
There's responsibility along with potential income.
Yeah, and it is, there is a little more risk involved than if you're just doing, mutual funds, but it's for the right people. It certainly has paid off. It's, I think, 9 out of 10 millionaires are involved in cash flow real estate.
At least 9 out of 10. I don't meet very many, when we get to talk in our circles, many people that say, oh, no, don't do rentals.
Yeah. So, excellent. Well, if you have some, again, this is a very, very basic, there is hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
And a few more hours, I think.
If you were wondering about some resources, where to go, hey, what's great books to read, we can definitely put you in touch with all of those. I can just send you a list of the stuff actually that I've just finished reading and listening to as well. So thanks so much, guys, for listening. Please subscribe to us on YouTube now, on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and iTunes. And follow me on Facebook at Peter Toering Realtor and Chris Vanbelle Realtor. Also, you can find us on the Twitter and the Instagram as well by searching our names. We would love to chat with you. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.
Take care.